Delegates at the World Economic Forum have stressed the need to keep economies open. Chinese President Xi Jinping isn't here this year. Instead, he sent his right-hand man, who's known as the brain behind China's economic overhaul. China's man in Davos, Liu He, a Harvard-educated economist, pledged to push forward President Xi's four-decade reform and further open up the country to the world.
First, regarding the opening up of the financial sector, we have pledged further opening up measures in banking, securities and insurance sectors. As far as I know, many foreign friends want to know when these measures will materialize. Let me respond in a responsible manner. We will implement these measures one by one within this year, and the earlier, the better.
Also focusing on China was Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, who praised it for helping Africa's development.
Well, I thought the president's speech last year was the most important one given at the conference, and people are still talking about how China's opening up and sharing its experiences while it continues to develop very rapidly. It's great that as China has grown, it's now able to share those lessons and reach out, increase its aid budget over time. The commitments that were made to Africa were very impressive.
But while backing China's ambition to push trade and infrastructure, the president of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank sounded a more cautious note.
First criterion is financial sustainability. We should not do a project which would be loss-making. We will never do a project which would be a white elephant. The second is the support or improvement of the environment.
On day 3 of Davos, the focus now turns to the arrival of Donald Trump. But while some are concerned his America First approach could create a more fragmented global economy, leading bankers are at odds about whether this could create a trade war between the US and China. Maria Ramos, TRT World.
And we can go to Davos now, and joining us from there is Patrick Fok. Patrick, welcome. Give us a sense of the mood down there in a rather cold and chilly-looking Davos, of the mood. Are people optimistic that the synchronized global economic recovery that we're seeing is going to carry on for the foreseeable future?
Hi, Azza. I think there's a lot of optimism here in Davos. The IMF has painted a pretty rosy picture in its growth outlook for world economies. Global markets are booming at this time. And PwC only a few days ago released a survey showing CEOs were very bullish. More than 57% of CEOs were bullish about prospects in 2018. Less than half of that felt the same a year ago. At the same time, people here are talking about all the risks that lie ahead in 2018, threats brought about by things like climate change, terrorism, and challenges brought on by new technologies. And of course, in the back of everyone's minds, everyone's thinking about what this wave of anti-globalist sentiment means. And everyone's going to be listening very carefully to Donald Trump's speech, no doubt, tomorrow, all guns blazing, as you say, to try and decipher what the implications are going to be for trade and investment.
And I suppose no one's going to be listening to it any more intently than the Chinese. What do they want to hear from Trump?
Well, there is a much smaller presence of Chinese here than there was last year. The truth is we're not hearing an awful lot from what delegates are saying about what they want to hear from Trump. But we can tell a lot by what we're reading in Chinese media, which is basically saying that leaders here have two fundamental different outlooks that they can follow. One is is Donald Trump's America First agenda. The other is a collaborative approach, which leaders like Trudeau and Modi have been touting this week. Chinese media is actually saying that President Xi Jinping should be taking credit for shaping this idea when he visited Davos last year, and that Liu He is in fact here to reinforce that message on his behalf. So in all likelihood, Chinese delegates here actually want Trump to push that America First agenda even further, because of course the more isolated that America becomes, the bigger the opportunity there is for China to step up and fill that leadership void.
And it's not just rhetoric, is it, Patrick? I mean, just looking at the evidence just over the last few days, just yesterday, US federal prosecutors found a Chinese wind turbine maker, a company called Sinovel, guilty of stealing technology from American Superconductor Corp. And that is just after those tariffs that Trump slapped on the washing machine imports and solar panel imports. Has there been any reaction from the Chinese to all of this ahead of Trump's speech?
Well, there's been some reaction from one of China's heaviest hitters. Alibaba Group founder Jack Ma said he was scared at the prospect of a trade war, and that he said that the prospect would be potentially disastrous. He's also said that starting a trade war is easy, but to pull one back, to fix it, can take 30 years. So that's the response we're getting from the Chinese. The US, for its part, it's downplayed this idea that it's trying to start a trade war despite these new developments that we've been seeing. But speaking at Davos, Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross made a remark that clearly suggested the US was taking some sort of stand, saying that China's been superb at free trade rhetoric for many years now, but it's also been superb at one other thing, and that is highly protectionist behavior.
Now, Patrick, you know, Donald Trump stirred up a lot of controversy recently when he talked about African and Latin American countries, reportedly, allegedly, in a very disparaging way. Those countries are represented in Davos. What is likely to be the reaction from those countries as he speaks?
Well, we know that protesters had a very difficult time reaching Davos at the beginning of the week when weather conditions really made it difficult to get here. But as Trump's speech approaches and as the weather has been clearing up over the last couple of days, we have been seeing more demonstrators coming out to say that Trump isn't welcome and condemning the remarks that he made. There's clearly a lot of anger among leaders from Africa and Latin American nations. And on one hand, it may be seen as detrimental to their efforts to try and attract investment to their countries. But on the other hand, the fact that so many of them are here this year suggests that they are pushing very hard against Trump's rhetoric, and that they're all coming here to tout their countries, to say that they are open for business, and to show people that there are plenty of opportunities on offer.
Patrick Fok in Davos, thank you very much indeed. Now, Patrick's been rather busy. He has also spoken to Andrew Funk. He's the president of Homeless Entrepreneur. That's an organisation that's helping homeless people to work and get off the streets.
Well, one of the key themes here at the World Economic Forum this year is income inequality, and one organisation's come here to highlight exactly that problem. They've come here to Davos without a place to stay and actually spent the evening out in the open. Andrew Funk, thank you very much for joining us here. I don't envy your sleeping conditions last night. What's this done all about?
Well, every month we do a sleep out called Everyone Sleeping in the Street. And what we want to do is create awareness and also raise funds. So that way all the homeless entrepreneurs, the people that want to tell their story and work to get off the street, can have the opportunity. So we're giving them a voice here in Davos, so that way people can listen to them and act, which is the most important thing.
A lot's been said about the world's wealthiest people coming to this playground for the rich to talk about income inequality. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, basically, you see a very stark contrast of who's here and what they're speaking about. And what we've tried to do is break that line and come across and bring the subject, their audience, to them. And we hope that they listen to what we have to say and they act. Like I said, this is the most important thing. We want people to see that even though the extreme weather and the extremely high prices keep the majority of the people they're speaking about and that they want to help, they should bring the people they want to help closer to them so they can understand the problem, empathize, and solve it much faster.
All right, and when you say you want them to act, what exactly do you want business and world leaders to be doing to tackle the problem of poverty and homelessness?
In regard to homelessness, the first thing I would say is they need to address the issue. And I would invite any of the world leaders here to address the issue of homelessness. And I would like to invite any of them that are listening to have a 5-minute coffee in the cold in front of this teepee where we slept last night and where we will be sleeping tonight. So as you can see, it's a very private place and there will be no one here to bother us. So if someone does that, I think showing the world that they're willing to listen to smaller people, smaller organizations, and all those people that need help, I think they will make a huge difference, and this is what we want.